Hi class, and welcome to this video, which is Understanding the Fieldwork Assignment. Most or all of your courses have had fieldwork, and so this video will help you understand how to do this assignment worth a lot of your grade, and also asking you to apply some of the important concepts about assessment that we've been learning in class. First of all, everything I'm about to show you is located on the in the assignments folder, which is on the course materials page. As you can see, the folder for the fieldwork paper is there along with some of your other important assignments. This project is due on December 14th and is worth 20% of your grade. So let's go ahead and enter that folder. If you click on the fieldwork folder, you'll see that there are actually two options for fieldwork. Option 1 is the traditional observation of a classroom. This is where you go into the class and observe and write about what you see. But because of COVID, the state has extended the option for allowing video observations, and so we'll be talking about that. So you can choose either option. The third thing that you see there on the screen is the link to submit the paper. And finally, the link at the bottom is a link to submit your fieldwork form. We no longer have access to TaskStream, so this semester we're being asked to use a Google link, which I've provided you, and you're going to fill out your fieldwork form information there. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So if you click on the first folder, which is the observation of classroom, you'll see the instructions for that. So this document contains not only the instructions but the grading rubric. So as I said, it's due December 14th and it's worth 20% of your grade. So let's see how you get started with this option, and then we'll talk about the video option. First, you need to observe a classroom in the school for a minimum of 6 hours. Now, you might be asking, why is it worth 10 hours of fieldwork if you're only observing for 6 hours? And that's because we anticipate 4 hours of organizing your paper and notes and then writing your paper and submitting it. It's important that your classroom be two things, in an area that corresponds to your certification area. So if you're adolescent English, it would be great to do an observation in adolescent English. Don't go into an elementary school, especially, because that's a whole different grade level. Also, you cannot observe in your own classroom if you're teaching. If you're the teacher of record or you're the teacher's assistant, you cannot observe in your own classroom. And the reason is that when you observe, it's important to be completely separate from what's going on in the classroom. It's not possible to observe and be teaching or be assisting a teacher if you do that. So if you're working in a school and you're choosing this option, just ask another teacher if you can observe him or her. Go in on your lunch break a few days, and then you'll fulfill that requirement. There is a permission to observe form in the assignments folder. This is signed by the Dean of the School of Education. It's in case you need verification of the assignment. You don't have to get it signed and return it to me. It just says this is a valid assignment, and you could give it to a teacher, you could give it to an administrator. So you're going to go into the classroom, and the first thing you're going to do is sit down and take lots of notes on the surroundings. What day, what time did you start, whose classroom, what was the school, where is it located, what type of school is this, what do you see when you sit down in the classroom? Do you see posters? Is it a cheerful classroom? Is it a disorganized looking classroom? Is it a messy classroom? When the students are in, you start to talk about, well, how many students are there? If you're observing middle or high school, you might say, you know, that I observed over 3 different periods, that they were 50-minute periods, how many boys and girls were in each class, any special education students. Some of this can be gleaned from a conversation with the teacher after, which will really flesh out that context. As I've mentioned in other classes, this is important that this be a separate observation from any that you use for other classes. And that's because the state requires these fieldworks to be separate observations. So don't try to go in and use one fieldwork for 3 different classes. One thing that you need to know is that we put these through what's called Safe Assign, and it's very good at locating plagiarism, whether it's from another student or an internet source. And so if that's the case, you might receive a 0, or you may be asked to rewrite the paper. I've had to do that, and I'm always regretful when I have to do it, but it's not fair to all the students who put in the work and who do it on their own to not take that action. Some people get caught and they don't intend to cheat. So remember, if you are quoting from the textbook or you're quoting from another source, you have to cite it and you have to put it in your references. So you're going to take notes on what you see. You're going to write a 4 to 6 page paper. You're going to describe the context of the observation, which is what I talked about before. Then you're going to briefly describe the lesson that you observed. Now, the mistake that a lot of students make is that they make this the body of the paper. And then Mrs. So-and-so did this, and then she did this, and then she did this, and then she did this. And the reality is that should be a brief, portion of your paper. Where you really want to write the paper is the use of assessment that you saw in the classroom. That's going to be the largest part of your paper. And you're going to answer these questions, and maybe you can think of more. So, in what ways were your experiences similar to or different from your prior ideas on assessment before diving into the meat of this class? So did you see a lot of assessment? What types did you see? Did the teacher use standards? How did they formatively assess the students? Were there any summative assessments? Try not to just go into classes where tests are being given, because that doesn't tell you a lot about how the teacher understands what the students know, which is what this class is all about. Talk to the teacher. What types of assessments does she use or he use when you're not in the classroom? Maybe you didn't get to observe. How does she know when a student needs help? How often is assessment done? And what kinds of accommodations on assessments are made for diverse learners? Maybe she allows some students to take longer time or to be separated from the class so they're not distracted. Some of these are formal accommodations, and sometimes teachers do more informal accommodations. So that's the body of your paper, and that's why I didn't want you to do this too early in the class, because you didn't really understand anything about assessment, or very little, and now hopefully you're understanding more. Finally, you're going to write a reflection. This is not just a conclusion. A conclusion says, in summary, here's what I did, 1, 2, 3. A reflection says things like, in summary, here's what I did, and here's what I learned from that experience. Here's what I thought assessment was before. Here's what I know it is to be now. This surprised me. This was expected. Here's where I disagree with what the teacher did. Here's where I thought was a good idea. Here's something I could take into my own classroom. Of course, any references in APA format to support your citations that you put in the paper. If you cite something, it should have a reference. And don't put references in that don't have any citations. Sometimes I see a list of references that include, for example, your textbook, and I look back and there's no citation. So only things that you cite need references, but if you do cite it, you need a reference for it. And if this is new to you, I put a writing folder on the course site with some really good links about model format APA papers, links about how to do APA. Finally, you're going to submit your fieldwork form. You're going to submit your paper to Blackboard like we talked about, and you're going to submit your fieldwork form, which asks you to fill out, okay, where did I observe, and some information about that, and the link is in that folder. This assignment may not be turned in late or revised due to when it occurs in the course. So it's quite late. Grades are due shortly after that, and I wouldn't have time to double my grading load and get it all done. So make sure you do a good job. Let's talk about the option B, which is to watch the videos. It's a lot like option A, except instead of going to a class, you're watching some videos that I've provided the links for. 6 hours of videos. And so you can see it tells you what your area of certification is. You can choose early childhood. If you select the early childhood videos, everything's kind of organized by grade level. Childhood, you're going to view the childhood videos. Adolescent education. I tried to go through and make sure the links all still work because I've used this now for 2 semesters. If they don't work, feel free, if you don't come up to 6 hours, to go ahead and watch in another area. It's not a bad idea to see things that go on in other areas. I just don't want the bulk of your videos to be outside your area of certification. If you're in the dual program or the tri-cert program, you can watch videos from any of those areas of certification. Let's talk a little more specifically about how you do option B. So the first thing you're going to do is look at the outline. I'm about to go over the outline for the paper and the rubric. The rubric is the same, by the way, for both option A and B. You're going to select the videos that I'll show you. They're at the end of the instructions and the links. And you're going to take notes on each video. And I've provided a form where you can actually take notes. You have to submit that form, by the way, so don't overlook that form. I'll be showing you that form in a minute. You're going to write your paper, again, a 6 or 7 page double-spaced paper. Use your notes to assist you. Submit your paper to Blackboard and fill out the Fieldwork form to the link in the assignments folder. Here's the outline for option B. You're going to, in addition to talking about showing the context on the form, which I'm about to show you, you're going to just pick 3 favorite videos. These are your favorite videos from all the ones that you selected. And you're going to do an analysis on them. So you're going to talk about the type of formative assessment you saw, the summative assessment, if you saw performance-based assessment. And for each of these, you're going to talk about whether you felt it was effective or ineffective. Any other types of assessment, and then consider how the teacher used assessment to inform the instruction. Now, obviously, if you're watching the videos, you don't have access to the teacher the way you do if you go in person. So I'm going to be looking for a different kind of analysis based on what you saw in the video. You're going to write that reflection in much the same way that I described before, a conclusion and your references. Now, we talked about the grading for fieldwork is the same, and you can see the rubrics here, the context of the observation, whether you could identify standards or learning objectives. That's obviously going to be a little different for videos, but what you need to do in the videos for option B is just to see if you can figure out what the teacher is trying to teach. Describe the lesson and spend most of your time on the use of assessment. Your reflection, your references, your writing mechanics and APA, whether you follow the APA rules, whether you have good spelling and grammar. And then there are 2 other things, the observation form, which can be included separately when you upload your paper to Blackboard, or it can be included as an appendix. I'm going to show you that in a minute, as well as your fieldwork log that you click on the link in the folder and fill out. Now, for this option, you're going to put videos. And that's all you have to put that you did, and then some descriptive information about them. This is the summary of fieldwork video observations. This is included in the instructions document on the course site. For each video you watch, you're going to put the title, the length of the video, which I've given you, the context. And so what should you put for the context? If you look at the bottom of the paper, you're going to put the approximate grade level, the number of students you could see in the classroom, and the organization and appearance of the classroom, and anything else you feel is important. By the way, don't forget to check your certification area above the table. The final column, notes, is for you to take notes so that you can remember the video. And if you choose it as one of your 3 favorites, you don't have to re-watch the video. You'll have your notes right there. At the end, you should total up your hours, and they should equal 6 hours or more. And that's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at nheilbrenner@mercy.edu. Thanks, everybody. Let's get started.